Welcome back to the second part of our panel discussion with Matt Mansel, Lorena Garcia Giron, and Mathieu Roy. In this episode, I challenged them to bring their unique perspectives on customer experience, IT architecture, and strategy together in a thought exercise. It's a fun demonstration of how combining different viewpoints can lead to novel insights. Wherever you are in your career, you may discover some new ideas today, so let's discover them together. You will hear us talk a lot about edgy, using terms like identity, experience, and architecture. Don't worry if it's not familiar yet. This panel is aimed to take you on a journey to discover different viewpoints and enrich your thinking as an architect. Do you want to sharpen your skills as an enterprise architect? Welcome to Verbonden, the podcast where we combine insights from experienced professionals with real-world examples from the world of architecture. My name is Elise Luyckx, and I am your guide through the layers of enterprise architecture, making it less mythical and more concrete. I'd like to start with a mental exercise. It's like a small thought experiment. Maybe some of you are familiar with the concept of an Obeya room. I'm going to, let me look for the word. Lenen. Borrow, thank you. Good that there's an audience today. So I'm going to borrow this concept from the lean and the project management area from Toyota. For those who don't know it, it's an Obeya room. It's a dedicated room within a company where you bring together visualizations, sometimes even KPIs, dashboards, if you want to really go to the data side and the dashboard side. But the idea is to be able to go there, work with cross-functional teams, with across disciplines, break silos. So let's use this visualization. We have this room, and it's dedicated for us, and we I will be the business owner, so to speak. And you get to we have the company, so you get a company. Congrats. And we are going to get all kinds of structures, visualizations to steer this company. My question for you is, what tools, visualizations would you like to introduce into the room?
What tools?
Yeah, so what?
I have two.
Okay, you can start. And please also, for everybody, we might not know the tools. Try to also name the tool and explain what will you use it for and how does it look.
Okay, and it's not from Edgy, so I'm sorry about that. But it's two tools that we have used in the past. So the first one is very simple. It's the golden circle from Simon Sinek. Mm-hmm. The what, how, why, but starting with the why. And it's just to find purpose and align on what we're doing it and why we're doing it, to inspire people. And the second one is the 7-step framework that's called Brand Script from Donald Miller, and is really 7 steps to create your story, where you have a character that wants something with a problem, with 3 levels of problems, and you position yourself as the guide who gives them a plan, a very easy 1, 2, 3 steps, even 4 maybe, with a call to action, and then you name the stakes and you paint the picture of failure if they don't do what you're asking them to do, and then you paint the picture of success if they do what you're telling them you can guide them through, and then at the end there's the identity transformation. So you have to know why people are doing what they're doing before you use this framework, right? So one feeds into the other, But after you have that, then it's a little bit easier to move from there to like more tangible aspects of any project.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good start of our own very first enterprise design Obeya room. Does anyone of you, Matt, Mathieu, wants to add some toolings? Yeah.
So, about identity, obviously one of the things that are critical are stories. And unfortunately, sometimes words can make stories complicated, too long, or just too convoluted. One of the tools that I would introduce that is, especially since nowadays the teams are getting more international, we have different accents, we have different terminologies, but if I told you what is the most accessible and international language, especially in this digital era, it's emojis. So actually I did, and I was talking with Annika about that earlier today, I did an experiment at one point where I was telling people, exhausted people in a room because they had a rough year, you're going to put emojis on the wall to tell stories, to create meaning about what you're using. And it's a language by itself because it has its boundaries, it has its emotion, it has its functions, and you can express a lot of things already. And then you complement those with words, and then you build the story. It's surprisingly efficient at decluttering everything related to language, but also structuring stories and purpose very quickly, because you don't have to read everything. You just have to scan it. And if there are some language differences, well, most of the time, an emoji will resonate much more universally because it's visual, right? So I invite people to mix edgy with emoji, and that gives the nice edgy-moji. And it's really fun.
You know, I thought you were going to say, you make them do improv somehow. that would be a fun experiment. What about you, Matt? Oh, I'm between two Matts.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's so many things you could do, but I guess for me, I would want to start with helping the people come into the room understand the present, understand where they are. And there's lots of ways to do that. There's various techniques for it, but I think similarly to Mathieu, the stories are really important. So I'm assuming we've done a whole lot of work to create the things that will be visualized. So I quite like finding ways to visualize stories, like taking quotes from workshops or things that have happened and just putting them up so that people can understand the feeling, the narrative, the story of the organisation. And the reason that this is important in this space is because too often we disconnect. We think too much about what we want to be and how we want to be organised, and not enough about how we are organised and what's the potential of that. So I would then find, and I suppose if I'm coming into this space from that architectural point of view, I would then connect those stories to current views of capabilities or processes or the things that we have, assets, so that people can see how the people in the organisation or the customers or whoever it is that we've talked to feel about those things. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, all of this, like if I think about the three facets and the white space in the middle, that's people, right? I mean, it's all people. So there's a really important thing about how we express the way that people are seeing things and feeling things and connect them to those elements. And so for me, I think I'd be wanting to visualise how things are structured or organised, and then connect that with the stories. I mean, possibly the stories that Mathieu has found with the, what'd you call them? Edgimoji?
Edgimoji.
Yeah. So you can kind of link that up. and you can put the purpose stuff in that plan in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
I might add
Yeah. Please add another tool, Mathieu.
Yeah, actually. Lorena, you gave me an invitation to talk about improv. I think this is a bit too much to start with, but definitely role-playing is a great way to understand better not just what's in your head, but what's in other people's mind, in other people's daily activities. So introducing that into your workshops, activities, conversations builds empathy, because you have to put yourself in the shoes of someone else. And then it's doing the same thing as Edgy is doing, which is you are switching perspective on a certain subject, a certain language, and then truly magic happens. It's the basis of improv matches, but it doesn't have to be, full theater. Just role-playing really is a good way to shift perspective very efficiently.
I just wanted to build upon that because we did it last year in the workshop that we presented at the Intersection 24, where we invited people to role play. And I remember that one of the participants, she had to embody the CFO. And in her real life, that was like her arch nemesis. I might be exaggerating for entertainment purposes. But after our activity, she came up to us and she said, I had never seen things from this point of view, but I really embodied the character. So the person that was asking for like budget and funds, I was like, nope, not happening, right? And so that, because I really think that the term empathy booster, like if we could have little pills and be like, hey, just take this, it will allow you to somehow gain understanding through being in other people's shoes, would help so much.
I was going to say that some of the most effective exploration or workshops that I've seen are when we've got people together to role play in a structured fashion. So what happens now, and then what we might want to happen. So that I just wanted to agree that role play is a great tool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So we already have. Let me look back. We have our why. Why is the organization? Do we exist? And we have the brand guide. What is the story? What will success be? What will failure be? Also very important. We have the emojis and the improv. And then I heard you say, Matt, the capability, the as-is. Could you maybe dive into that? Because you said we're going to do the as-is. What does it look like?
There's the how and how you get there, and then the output. So I'm a big fan of finding ways to democratize involvement. I can highly recommend, there's a thing called liberating structures. There's a whole lot of very good guidance for ways to facilitate groups of people where there are power imbalances or extroversion imbalances or things like that enables everyone to have a voice and an input. And so typically for me, I will want to get to that view of the current state by using the appropriate liberating structure, workshopping things so that you can get that output. And then what I would be looking to do is, and I'm doing increasingly in my work, is using the tools of Edgy. So then looking at capability maps, maybe high-level process diagrams, if that's what's come out. And looking to connect those with the other elements or the other facets, right? So the story, the experience and the identity. Mm-hmm. But in this context, the thing I would be looking to develop is that here's where we are. This is the view of where we are, because then we can look at the plan for where we want to be, rather than creating a capability map of where we want to be. As we execute that plan, we can update our as-is capability map and say we are, and so we can show that we are changing as we go,
Yeah.
rather than predefining to think about Anthony's talk today when he talked about the, if by futuring we defuture, because we pick an outcome and then we go for that outcome, whatever it looks like. By exploring forward using these techniques, we can then create a capability map and the processes, and then we can update that and show that we're growing in the direction or the desired direction of travel from there.
In what way will this is for you, Lorena, maybe, in what way do you think the as-is structure will support the branding story? Is it the branding story that you said, or the 7 steps?
Yeah.
Can I sidetrack just a little bit to mention something? So because I am representing experience, I would like to acknowledge the pushback, right? So we're talking about tools. And in an ideal world, you arrive in this room and a fictitious, and everybody is like pumped and ready and open to do whatever you're asking them to do. In reality, it doesn't happen like that. So especially when you solicit imagination of people that are very rational. And I would like to share that with the audience, because if you do not acknowledge that, and if you do not design for that, then you will hit a wall. And I remember a few years back, I was with designers, paradoxically, and the president of this association, he just refused to do the icebreaker warm-up exercise. That was just like, close your eyes and imagine you're going to the moon and back, and then you had to explain how you got to do that. And he was like, no, I'm not doing this. And so for me, instead of just freezing, right, or being in denial, I embraced that. And I said, actually, this is something that can happen. You get a blockage and it's okay, and to normalize it. And more recently, with doing workshops with clinicians, there's going to be pushback, and obviously from people that are very, very busy, and in this case, physicians. So a 3-hour workshop becomes a 90-minute one, and then an email goes out and pushback comes back saying, can you do this in 60 minutes? And saying, you don't understand, we've already told you we don't have time. I can go over your slides and tell you what will be pertinent for physicians. So it's not that I ignored, but I did not focus on the first part that was like pushing back. I just saw an opening, and I was like, yes, can you spare 15, 20 minutes? Whenever. I will show you my slides, I will tell you the proposal of what we're trying to do, and I will get your input. And this physician, who was super archy busy, he not just gave me 30 minutes of his time, I got a full hour with this person who wouldn't stop talking, because at a certain point, he took a pause, and I said, I had something to say, but give me a second, because I was actively listening, so I did not prepare what I was going to say afterwards. And he just laughed, and he said, thank you for really listening. And after our conversation was done, he followed up with an email saying, thank you for listening, and he wasn't going to come to the workshop. And he made the time, and he showed up. And so it is worth, acknowledging, designing for, and going the extra mile, because what makes a true difference is trust. If there is no trust, you will get nowhere. And I can go back to your question. So how does, situating ourselves in the present feed into that 7-step framework for the story? I guess it gives us clarity instead of speculating. With my team, at a certain point, I had to stop what we were doing and say, it seems to me we're really speculating here. And we should go to the source, like someone said about data, right? So in this case, the source were kids that are handicapped and need to learn how to drive a motorized wheelchair. And I was like, we need to interview them, and we need to interview their parents. Instead, of role playing. Instead of trying to get into, their shoes, it's actually contact them. So that the discernment of saying it is a time to role play and it is the time to actually speak with the real people is really key.
Yes.
You can build on.
I would bounce back of the concept of liberating structures. I think this is an undervalued thing because when we design activities, when we design tools, we often liberate the people using it, but we also constrain ourselves a lot to bounce on whatever is happening in the room. I would say plan less and improvise more so that you are willing and able to feed on the collective intelligence of the people building, using, and discussing the tool. That's the real benefit, by the way, of improvisation matches, because you don't have time to plan. You have to survive. It's survival mode at its best. That's why I like risk management. That's the whole point. You have to build a story, get the characters right, and just go through it without thinking too much. And it's very liberating. It's also very efficient in terms of return on investment. I pass more content through this structure than just giving a regular class or a regular workshop. It's just we are scared of this kind of chaos, but when you're actually embodying the fact that chaos will drive you to discomfort, and discomfort will make you interact better with the real people in front of you, not trying to control what's happening in front of you. Liberating structures should be acknowledged not just for the people using it, but also for the people, the enterprise architect leading those liberating structures.
Let's just give liberating structures a moment of our attention. Can you introduced the concept, Matt? Can you quickly say how do you actually make it happen?
The honest answer? I go to the website and I look up the recipe for the liberating structure I want to use and I do it. So there's a website called liberatingstructures.com and they have 25 different tools you can use for different, and they're all essentially group activities that are designed to enable everyone to have a voice and to contribute their input. So the problem with things like the typical brainstorm is that it tends to prioritise the voice of the loud or opinionated or extroverted people in the room. So these are designed to essentially let everyone have a voice. And once you understand how they work, to Mathieu's point, you can start to improvise on top of them because you can combine them or you can come up with new ones. But once you get the idea behind them, that essentially we want to democratise involvement and democratise participation. That's the sort of fundamental core principle behind them. But I have to say, it's a great website. It's all available for free. So, not that I'm here to advertise for them. I'm getting no commission. But it's a tool. They're a tool that I use all the time to facilitate workshops. They're really, and I've started looking at my other experiences I've had and how I can turn them into the same structure.
Okay. Thank you for indulging me in this thought experiment of an Obeya room. Actually, I'm taking something away from this. Like, I hear a lot that we need to collaborate, build bridges. So just not to summarize or step on everything that you said very elegantly and with a lot of different layers with just one sentence, but that's my takeaway or my feeling that I'm left with. I wanted to ask you, from this conversation, did you gain an insight that you might want to... Well, did you gain an insight? I see that you're nodding. Can I give the mic to you,
Sure.
Matt?
I'm definitely using emoji, edge emoji. It's a great, but I like the idea. It's a great way to get people to connect with and externalize the internal, whatever they're going through, in a way that's, I think, will feel safe for people. I think it's a great tool. So yes, I'm going to use that.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Sure.
From Matt to Matt.
Second Matt speaking. You know what? I think the format of what we're doing right now would be my insight, because when you approached me to do this, you said, I want to go there. I want to tell that type of story. I want to touch that type of content. But then, afterwards, we are in a liberating structure all of our own to just fill in where you want to go, because you briefed us with your identity very efficiently. I think that people should do that much more often before getting people into a room, working some tools, etc., because it ensures that even if it's chaos that's going to be building something that people want in the end, which is designed for intent, which is the favorite subject of Lorena. So that would be my insight.
Yeah, if I may just say that, thank you for that feedback. Because I'm sometimes doing this kind of interview I'm sometimes scared of the chaos, but with every podcast interview, I try to really embrace it. So thank you for actually bringing that in words. I'm very grateful. Thank you. But now let's hear your insight, Lorena.
So to build upon what Matt and Matt said, I'm sort of like in a Matt sandwich. I think, and I've gone through it very recently, and one of the projects that I'm working on is this notion of you create a certain structure, but it's not complete, it's not closed. It needs to be completed by the participants and by what's going to be created between them. So in this specific example, we were supposed to have 2 workshop sessions with multiple multidisciplinary stakeholders. And we had the first one, and by the evening of that first day, it was very clear to us that the second session would not be productive. And so instead of that, we kept key stakeholders, and we had another type of workshop, and we created an action plan to align to later be able to do that second session. My boss came up to me and she said, I hope you're not very disappointed because you worked so hard on this. And I said, you know what? I did not prepare workshop number 2. I mean, like, I did the agenda and the description, and I knew what we were supposed to do, but I did not create the visuals, I did not create the tools, the materials that we were going to use, because in the back of my mind, they were going to be determined, fed by workshop number 1. So my insight that has been confirmed by our conversation is the ability to not just improvise, but to be open and adapt to what is going on in the present, so that you can collaborate successfully, productively, and have real impact intentionally.
Can I just say something quickly?
Sure.
I think just listening to that, there's a quote I've heard, right? Planning is everything, the plan is nothing. And I think that in some ways sums up
I'm just throwing away my paper now. Yeah.
In some ways sums up what we've been talking about, because we need to have a sense of direction. We need to think about where we might be going. and we need to have, so we might have a plan, but actually what's important is that to take what Lorena was saying is to go, well, what's happened, what's happening now, and how do I then pivot or adapt or move in a way that's taking me in that direction. And I think the more we get into that kind of thinking, and we can use enterprise design and other tools to do that, then the more likely we are to be successful in the work that we do.
Then maybe a coaching question, because this is the intention. How can you make it more actionable? Like, what can you actually do? Because you now have the insights from this conversation. What can you actually do as from tomorrow, or as a very small step, or as from next week or next month, to actually take it with you? Does anybody of you want to give a reaction to this question?
Sure.
Yeah, Mathieu?
For me, what is actionable is that whatever your plan is, taking the time to talk with people about your intention, where you want to go, the purpose, the stories, the content, is the best return on investment you can ask for, because you don't need anything else than just a little conversation so that the ball gets rolling in a direction that will ultimately drive results. And I empathize with enterprise architect a lot, because you guys need to think of everything. And I know that asking you to embrace chaos, as I call it, is definitely not easy. It's not logical, but I urge you to trust me that the best logic comes from when you actually give room to people to not just improvise, but fill the room with collective intelligence. And yeah, that's my actionable advice, and what I'll be doing a lot more from now on. Before every conversation, I mean. Yeah.
Cool. So building upon collective intelligence, I would add collective emotional intelligence, because the next time that I find myself, or if you want this as advice, the next time you find yourself upon this sticky situation, or spicy, like my manager likes to call it, I would pause, breathe, and acknowledge the discomfort that it is causing. Because if you are in denial of your own discomfort, you cannot help others overcome theirs in order to be able to build something together that is greater than ourselves.
Very true.
Yeah.
Building on that, there are two things for me, I think, that I would encourage. You talked about part of your audience being people aspiring to things like enterprise architecture. I would encourage everyone to be what I would call a reflective practitioner. I did teacher training a very long time ago, and we were encouraged that as soon as you've delivered the lesson and you walk out of that classroom, think about what went right, what went wrong, what would I change, and that building that practice into your day-to-day work grows you as a person. The other thing I would encourage people to do is be acquisitive, as in terms of acquiring tools. I mean, I've heard about a bunch just in this conversation that I haven't heard of, and I'm going to be going and looking up. And in the conference over the last couple of days, you hear about all these tools, and I'm like, the more tools I have in my toolkit, the more responses and the more ways I have of working through whatever it is that's in front of me. And so I think that both of those things are things people can adopt today or tomorrow.
Right. Thank you for this panel. I love the discussion. I hope everybody sitting here in the room with us loved the discussion. Thank you for listening to this amazing panel conversation with Lorena, Mathieu, and Matt. I hope having two Matts wasn't too confusing, and, more importantly, that you feel inspired to look beyond what's familiar and start exploring new connections in your own work. Many thanks to Pieter-Jan Rombout for producing and editing, and to Leonard Busset for the intro music. And of course, thank you for listening, and see you next time.